Welcome to the February wrap-up. Dun-dun-dun-dun. So in February, I read 8 books. We're going to talk about 6 of them because 2 are little secrets that I'm saving for a future video. But we're going to rank them as usual from worst to best. And I read some really bad books in February, but also some pretty great ones. At number 6, we have 2 very different books, but both of these I gave a 3.5 out of 10. And I'm going to start by talking about Hell's Heart by Alexis Hall. This is an upcoming sci-fi release that has been compared to Sapphic Moby Dick in space, which is an awesome tagline. It sounds like it should be amazing. Unfortunately, the prose in this book is probably the worst prose I've ever read. It's so irritating, annoying, infuriating, dreadful, unfunny. But the worst part of all is that the author of this book thinks that this prose is God's gift to Earth. It's written in first person as a kind of autobiographical fake thing. And the author is very open with speaking to the reader, which is fine, except it's used as an excuse to drop all sorts of lore dumps without any particular reason for them or need for them that last multiple pages. It's filled to the brim with really unfunny quips. It didn't engage me. It didn't entice me. It really, really annoyed me, and it grated on me after about 50 pages. This book also has a protagonist who seems to have sex with literally every side character. There wasn't a single side character who didn't just pop up and then she had sex with them and then they kind of became irrelevant or stuck around. But I really didn't enjoy this book and I wouldn't recommend picking it up. But thanks for the arc anyway. Also getting 3.5 out of 10 is Of Darkness and Light, which is the second book of the Of Blood and Fire series by Ryan Cahill. Now, I read the first book in this and included it in my last wrap-up, and I wasn't overly impressed. It felt boring, it felt generic, the prose wasn't brilliant. I then went to see Ryan Cahill speaking to John Gwynne in a church, which was fun, and I thought Ryan Cahill was really eloquent, really put together. He talked a big game. He talked about how his writing had improved. He was funny. I really, really enjoyed the talk, and I'm very glad I got the opportunity to go. So I figured, you know what? I wasn't going to give the second book a chance, but actually, it really impressed me. So I'm going to give the second book a chance. This was a mistake, in case you couldn't tell from the fact that I gave it a 3.5 out of 10. It was so incredibly boring. Just so boring. I was bored. If this was something I'd read at the start of my fantasy reading journey, maybe I could have appreciated it more, but it was doing absolutely nothing at all. The characters were not well developed, they weren't interesting, they weren't unique. The world was generic-ass fantasy plonked there. Nothing original or exciting happened at all. The plot was boring. Everything just bored me. Give me something to excite me. I'm begging you. I am begging you. Do something original. Do something different. Have some kind of hidden depth to a character, to a plot thread, to the world. Change things around. Don't just give me the same boring fantasy book that I've read before. The generic tropes, the boring world. I need my interest to be piqued by something. I need it either to be really, really well written or to do something unique, and this failed on both counts, and as a result, it's given a 3.5 from me. Now, maybe I have been a little bit harsh. If this wasn't like an 800-page book, maybe I could have given it a slightly higher rating, because then it's generic but not wasting loads of my time. Unfortunately, by the time I'd finished the book, I was so done with it, and I don't DNF books because I'm a freak, so some kind of resentment has led me to probably slightly unfairly rate this a little bit lower than it deserves, but it just didn't do anything, and I don't understand the hype around the series. At number 4, we have Mark Lawrence's upcoming release, The Daughter of Crows, which has a stunning cover, and I adore Mark Lawrence. I think he writes in a really interesting and exciting way. He always releases trilogies, which I love because trilogies are the best length of series. That's an objective fact. I'm not arguing with anyone over that. This is another solid entry into his bibliography. It's the start of a new series, The Academy of Kindness, and it follows a young girl who enters the Academy of Kindness, which is kind of like a twisted battle royale school where only 3 girls will make it out as kindnesses, and most of the girls who enter the school will end up dead. I think this is really, really dark compared to Mark Lawrence's previous trilogy, which was the Library Trilogy, which was cozy and comfortable. We've gone back to his grimdark roots, and he's nailing it, basically. I have a full review of this up on my channel, so feel free to go and check it out up there if you want to. If you don't want to, then don't. At number 3, we have Dune. Now, this was a reread for me, and if you haven't heard of Dune, then it is basically the original sci-fi fantasy book. I would say it came out in the 1960s, I want to say, and it is a blueprint for the sci-fi genre. It's the thing that inspired Star Wars, and the two are pretty closely related, and it's masterfully written, masterfully world built. The characters are, for a sci-fi book of the time, strong-ish. It's as far as I can go. But this is a masterclass in writing sci-fi. Is it a little boring, and does everything that Herbert is trying to get across to you coming across effectively on a first read? I would say not necessarily, but having sat in this world for a bit, having watched the films, having learned a little bit about the lore, and come back to read this book a second time, I really, really enjoyed it and appreciated the influence that it had on the genre. Again, I've got another full video which has a review and a bit of a discussion about how this has influenced various different books and movies within the sci-fi genre. At number 2, we have The Eye of Bedlam Bride by Dungeon Crawler Carl. This is the 6th entry by Dungeon Crawler Carl. Are you stupid? By Matt Dinnerman. This is the 6th entry into Dungeon Crawler Carl. And again, another solid entry. I did feel as though this wasn't what I wanted it to be. It felt like book 5 was ramping up and we were getting more and more influence from the outside world. And book 6, we kind of toned that down a little bit, maybe. Certainly, it's not ramping up anymore. It's level or less than book 5 in terms of outside influence. And this is actually the aspect of the book that's most interesting at the moment. It does feel like the dungeon, although very entertaining and very interesting, is no longer what's piquing my excitement, purely because I think that the dungeon is a little repetitive in nature, and in terms of a plot promise, we kind of know that the dungeon isn't going to be the finale of the book. The finale of the book is going to come from outside of the dungeon, and so it feels like we're killing time a little bit in the dungeon. That said, this is still Dungeon Crawler Carl. It's still incredible. There's a reason it's staying at number 2, and that's because Matt Dinnerman knows what he's doing with this series, and he's doing it excellently. It's a unique series. It's brilliantly written. It's funny. It's just so well put together. And anyone who doesn't enjoy this series, honestly, I think you might have something a little bit wrong with you. I've heard some people say that Donut isn't the most amazing character ever. And I want to say to those people, you are incorrect. And at number 1, the top book for me in February was The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. Now, I'd actually only heard positive things about this book until I said to a few different people that I was reading it, who then all went, oh, I've never really heard anyone liking that book before, which surprises me because I think this is a fantastic book. There's a reason why it's number 1 in my February reads, beating out a Dungeon Crawler Carl entry, and that's because I thought it was brilliant. It's just what I wanted from it. It's exactly what I expected from it, and it's gorgeously written. I wouldn't put it above the Monk and Robot duology by Becky Chambers, which was my introduction to her as an author, but this is her debut, and for a debut book, it's super strong. it has found family on a cozy spaceship, and that just sounds amazing to me. If it sounds amazing to you, I think you'll probably like this book. We don't have any particularly strong characters, and what I mean by that is not that they're not well written. They're all fantastically well written, but there aren't any that stand out necessarily as a major character beyond the others. We do have something of a protagonist, but it's a found family where all of them feel very unique, and Becky Chambers gives each of the characters time on the page, their own motivations, their own character arcs, and that is something that I really, really appreciated. Does this book get lost a little bit in terms of plot? Yes. It does kind of feel like we're just sitting on a spaceship with these characters and they're doing things. But this is definitely a character-driven story, and the characters are, as I've mentioned, really, really well written. It also explores some fascinating themes that I really appreciated, primarily around learning about and respecting other people's cultures, and how learning about these cultures and appreciating them can only enhance our own understanding of them as a person, and also ourselves as a person, and our lives as a whole, which I think is a really powerful message and definitely feels very poignant given the current political climate and the way in which people want to isolate those from a different culture from them rather than welcoming them in and trying to understand the differences between their different cultures and appreciate who they are as people due to those differences. Anyway, subscribe and like, and I'll be back with a longer video on Saturday, hopefully. 3, 6, 5, go. 3, 6, 5, go. 3, 6, 5, go.